I'm Mike Pence. That's my wife, Karen Pence. And just a little more than 3 months ago, we had the privilege to accept our party's nomination to run and serve as the next Vice President of the United States of America. And we're so honored and grateful that you're here. Now, I appreciate Steve's introduction. I've heard it once or twice. It's always memorable, but he knows the one I prefer is a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order. And I couldn't be more honored to be with all of you today. Thank you for coming out. I will tell you what, I joined this campaign in a heartbeat because you have nominated a man for president who never quits, who never backs down. He is a fighter. He is a winner. And until very recently, it seemed like he was out there fighting on his own. But now this movement is coming together. Iowa is coming together, and we're going to elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States of America. You know, I really do believe. Some people ask me, say, what is it about Donald Trump, right? I mean, as I campaigned with him and campaigned for him, and I see this incredible movement of which you are a part across this country, I tell people, Donald Trump just gets it, right? I mean, he's given voice to the frustrations and the aspirations of the American people like no leader in my lifetime since Ronald Reagan. I mean, in a very real sense, I think Donald Trump embodies the American spirit. Strong, freedom-loving, independent, optimistic, and willing to fight every single day for what he believes in and to make this country great, and he's going to make a great president of the United States. You sure saw that fight a week ago when he went up to Vegas and beat Hillary Clinton in that debate hands down. Wasn't that great? You know, I know a little bit about this debate business. They had me do a vice presidential debate over in Farmville, Virginia a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, some people think I won that debate, and I'm very humbled by that. But let me tell you, from where I was sitting, Donald Trump won that debate. Donald Trump's agenda for America won that debate. And Donald Trump's vision to make America great again is going to win all the way to the White House. Because the truth of the matter is, you all in Iowa know, people around the country know, this is not just a choice between two people. It's really a choice between two futures. So let me tell you where I stand. I choose a stronger America. I choose a more prosperous America. I choose an America that cherishes and upholds our highest constitutional ideals. So I choose to stand with Donald Trump and with every American who believes that we can make America great again. I don't know what they're going to. We're going to make America great again. You know, the latest media, the latest media spin working with Hillary Clinton has been kind of fun to watch, isn't it? I mean, this last weekend, it was all about, it's all over, right? Kind of the air of inevitability, right? You heard Hillary Clinton's out there. She's widening the battlefield. She's campaigning for other candidates. And then, oops, new polls are coming out. It's wheel to wheel all across the country. Don't ever doubt it for 1 second. The race is on, and we're going to race all the way to the checkered flag. She may have the media and the money and the special interests on her side. But Donald Trump and I have got a little bit more. We've got a basket of the American people that are saying enough is enough. It's time to make America great again. But it's not just what the media Not just what the media is chasing after every single day about my running mate. It's what they're not talking about, which is this avalanche of scandals coming out of Hillary Clinton's years as Secretary of State and the Clinton Foundation. All the fast and loose ethics of the Clintons are just hard to keep up with, But let me try. So while she was Secretary of State in charge of all the foreign policy of the United States, she had a private family foundation taking money from foreign governments and foreign millionaires. And in between those two things, they found out she had a private server so that all the work that she was doing between those two things apparently wouldn't be available for public disclosure, right? And when it became public that she had a private server, they used high technology and hammers to try and keep it out of the public reach. Hammers. But, truth is a force of nature. Things have been coming out through drips and drabs and freedom of information requests and WikiLeaks, right? FBI a quid pro quo if they'd let her change the class.
Just a few
companies, and then they turn around and have those. Folks, the American people are sick and tired of pay-to-play politics that benefits the favored few, and it's exactly the kind of politics that's going to come to a crashing halt the day that Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. Donald Trump's got a plan. Donald Trump's got a plan to end the revolving door of public officials in the executive branch and the Congress going out and lobbying. And he's got a plan to say, how about this? How about registered foreign lobbyists can't raise money for American campaigns anymore? We're going to pass ethics legislation in the first 100 days, and Donald Trump is going to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. So get ready for him. But the truth of the matter is, this election is about a lot bigger things than their small ethics. So I want to talk to you about that in the few minutes that we have. And then they'll fling me back on that airplane, and I'm headed east. Miles to go before I sleep, as the poet says. But, it's the greatest privilege of my life to stand before you in this capacity today. I know I'm not exactly the main event. Just thank you for coming out today. Really and truly, it really means a lot to me. It does. But the tens of thousands of people that are out today with Donald Trump and the hundreds of people that come out for little old me, it's evidence of what he tells me all the time. He'll say to me when we're rolling into those gigantic Donald Trump rallies, and he'll be here in Iowa real soon. He'll look at me and he'll say, Mike, remember, he'll look out at the crowd and he's waving and giving a thumbs up, and he'll look at me and say, this isn't about me. This isn't about us. He'll tell me this is a movement of the American people, and the American people are going to make America great again. So thank you. But we got work to do, and we got to talk about the big things. And I'm just here to encourage you to pay more careful attention to what we already know. Okay? At this election, whatever the media is chasing after any given day of the week, this election really is about the big stuff. It's about security. It's about prosperity. And it's about the highest court in the land. And in the next 12 days, you got to tell your neighbors and friends here in Iowa what it's all about. Let's start with the security. Despite traveling millions of miles as our Secretary of State, the world is more dangerous today than the day that Hillary Clinton became the lead of our foreign policy and designed the foreign policy of this administration. It's true. 7.5 years of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's leadership on the world stage has weakened America's place in the world, set areas of the wider Middle East literally spinning apart. Our allies are less secure, our enemies are more emboldened. You know, history teaches that weakness arouses evil. And I would submit to you that the foreign policy that Hillary Clinton designed for this administration of leading from behind, of moving red lines, of feigning resets with Russia, and of recklessly and irresponsibly pulling all American forces out of Iraq is emblematic of that kind of leadership. You know, it was Hillary Clinton who actually initiated that disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. They got $150 billion. And at $1.7 billion, $400 million of which was a ransom payment for 4 Americans, and we just got a promise of delay of their nuclear ambitions. Let me make you a promise: when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we won't be paying ransom to terrorist-sponsoring states. They'll be paying a price. It was Hillary Clinton who withdrew all American forces. It was her job to renegotiate a status of forces agreement in Iraq as Secretary of State. She didn't do it. So their administration withdrew all American forces from Iraq and created the very vacuum in which ISIS was able to rise up out of the desert and overrun vast areas that had been won through incredible sacrifice and courageous service by the American soldier. You know, I remember I was in the Congress along with Congressman King in those years. I visited our soldiers downrange in Iraq and Afghanistan every year. Karen and I have stood by the graveside of our fallen. It's important to remind ourselves that by the end of 2008, through very difficult battles and hardships and setbacks, the American soldier won the peace and won the security of the people of Iraq. And it was squandered under this administration. Before I go one step further, I know there's men and women who've worn the uniform of the United States in those conflicts and in the long distant past. Would you mind just raising your hand? Our veterans in the crowd, just let us thank you one more time. It was Hillary Clinton who failed to negotiate that status of forces agreement, and when all the American forces went out, we saw the terrorist organization ISIS overrun those areas. And in our prayers and in our hearts at this hour, we should be thinking of the more than 5,000 American special forces marshaled outside Mosul who are having to win back what had already been won by the American soldier. And it was Hillary Clinton and her State Department who left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi. And after 4 Americans fell, we found out that she actually told the parents of the fallen at Dover Air Force Base that it was because of a filmmaker in the United States, even though she'd emailed her daughter on the night of the attack that it was a terrorist, Al-Qaeda-style terrorist attack. It was the anniversary of 9/11. But they presented it, remember, for days after the attack in Benghazi. They told the world that it was a spontaneous riot generated by outrage over some film, when they knew it wasn't the case. When she was confronted before the United States Senate about the story they told of those 4 fallen Americans, she said, quote, "What difference at this point does it make?" Well, let me tell you, as the proud parents of a United States Marine, anyone who said that, anyone who did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. You don't leave Americans in harm's way. And you don't say, what difference does it make when they fall? We just can't have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. For America to be safe, for the world to be safe, America needs to be strong. And Donald Trump will lead on the world stage with American strength. We will rebuild our military. We will restore the arsenal of democracy. We will provide our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines with the resources and training they need and deserve, and we will hunt down and destroy ISIS at its source so it can no longer threaten our people or inspire violence in the homeland. It's not just security abroad, it's also safety here at home. And the truth is, you all know here in Iowa what we've seen across this country. This is a very challenging time for men and women who wear the uniform of law enforcement. It seems like every time tragedy happens, when a police officer is performing their duties, rather than just asking for the answers that the public is always entitled to, there are too many in the media and too many on the liberal left who are too quick to use a broad brush and assume the worst of law enforcement in this country and demean the men and women who put their lives on the line every single day. You know, we've got a lot of members of law enforcement who are with us here today. Would you mind just taking a minute to show your appreciation to the men and women in law enforcement for the way that they protect our families and the sacrifices they and their families make on our behalf? Let me promise you, when he becomes the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, a President Donald Trump will stand with the men and women in law enforcement at every level. We will provide them with the resources and the training they need to protect our families and come home safe to theirs, and we will restore law and order to every city and every community in this land. You know, that's probably why the 330,000 members of the Fraternal Order of Police have endorsed Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. So it's about security abroad, it's about safety at home, but it's also about our prosperity, isn't it? In 7.5 years of leadership under this administration, leadership that Hillary Clinton wants to continue, has weakened America's economy. We're in the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression. The statistics are literally heartbreaking for working families. Nearly 1 in 4 Americans in their prime earning years isn't even working. 1 in 5 American households don't have anyone with a job under the same roof. 45 million Americans on food stamps, 47 million living in poverty, millions more living in poverty than the day that Barack Obama took over leadership of this nation. Hillary Clinton's plan, more of the same. More of the same bad ideas, more taxation, more regulation, more of the war on American energy, and more of the stifling and suffocating Affordable Care Act that's killing American jobs. You know, they tell us this economy is the best that we can do. But I think people here in Iowa know better. It's not the best that we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to put time-honored conservative principles into practice, and we're going to get this economy moving again for every American. Because Donald Trump has a plan. He's got a plan. Not the plan Hillary Clinton wants to raise taxes by $1 trillion. We're going to work with Congressman Steve King. We're going to re-elect Republican majorities all across the land. You're going to send Chuck Grassley back to Washington, D.C. from the great state of Iowa. With renewed Republican majorities in the House and Senate, right out of the gate, we're going to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. We're going to get rid of death taxes once and for all. And we're going to lower business taxes in Iowa so companies in Iowa can compete and keep jobs in this state instead of seeing them go overseas and around the world. And Donald Trump and I know the regulation is stifling the American economy. That avalanche of acronyms coming out, piling on top of American growth. You know what I'm talking about. The EPA, the OSHA, the DOE, the ABCDEFG. So we're going to sign a moratorium on any new federal regulation on day one. And Donald Trump and I are going to repeal every single Obama executive order that was signed into law that's stifling jobs and growth in this economy. And because Donald Trump and I believe that the God-given blessings of this nation include our vast natural resources, We're going to end the war on American energy on day one, and we're going to develop an all-of-the-above energy strategy. Coal and oil and natural gas, renewables, conservation, wind and solar and nuclear. We're going to develop all of the above energy strategies. It's going to drive American renewal. And lastly, when Donald Trump becomes negotiator-in-chief, we're going to renegotiate NAFTA. We're going to get out of this TPP deal, and we're going to have trade in the world that means American jobs first. Oh, and there's one more thing. Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton actually went up to Canada not long ago and gave one of those speeches that came out. She said her ideal was actually to have a Canadian-style healthcare system, right? I think she said a healthcare system just like yours. Well, they have socialized medicine in Canada, okay? I mean, the truth of the matter is that Steve King and I were there on the floor of the Congress fighting every step of the way when Obamacare was pushed through Washington, D.C. Remember when they told you? They said, if you like your doctor, you can keep it. Not true. Remember they said, if you like your health insurance, you can keep it. Not true. I mean, they said that the cost of health insurance was going to go down. Not true. In fact, former President Clinton actually said, premiums are going up. Coverage is going down. He said it's, quote, the craziest thing in the world. You know, I guess even with the Clintons, sometimes truth happens. I mean, the hard and heartbreaking truth is this administration on Monday just said the average increase in 2017 under Obamacare for premiums, the average is going to be 25%. I mean, men and women, Obamacare is putting a hardship on working Americans. It's putting a hardship on small businesses. My favorite line about it came about a week ago. President Obama went down to Florida and gave a speech about it. Did you hear about this? It was the 3rd anniversary of the rollout of Obamacare. He went down to celebrate it, but he actually compared Obamacare to the Samsung Galaxy 7 phones that spontaneously burst into flames. I'm not making this up. The president actually said, he said this. He said, quote, when one of these companies comes out with a new smartphone and it has a few bugs, what do? They fix it. They upgrade it. Unless it catches fire, then they pull it off the market. Well, what a coincidence, Mr. President, because that's exactly what we're going to do with Obamacare. We're going to pull it off the market so it stops burning up our wallets. I mean, Hillary Clinton said earlier this year, I know her husband's expressing newfound skepticism about it, but she said, quote, before they called it Obamacare, they called it Hillary Care. And the truth of the matter is, when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to work with Congress. We're going to repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel, and we're going to replace it with health care reform that lowers the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government. We're going to allow more consumer choice and allow the free market to solve the health insurance needs of the American people. That's the American way. So it's about security, safety at home and abroad. It's also about prosperity, but maybe most important of all, it's really about the highest court in the land. I mean, men and women, if you saw that debate the other night, you heard Hillary Clinton describe her philosophy about the Supreme Court of the United States. I mean, it's really remarkable. She actually, when she was asked about appointments to the Supreme Court, she said she wanted a court that represented a certain viewpoint. Well, I'm governor of Indiana today, but I was a representative in Congress for 12 years. Under our Constitution, we have a representative portion of the government. It's the House and the Senate. The president arguably represents all the American people. The Supreme Court, Hillary, is supposed to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and solve the disputes that arise between Americans under the law. It's not a representative part of our government, but it is for her. I mean, you heard that liberal philosophy coming through that I mean, it seems like there's no restriction on abortion she would ever support. There's no restriction on the Second Amendment she would ever oppose. So let me just say to you, for the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of limited government, for the sake of the sanctity of life and the unborn, for the sake of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States and all the God-given liberties that are enshrined in our founding documents, Iowa, you need to decide here and now that in the next 12 days you're going to do everything in your power to ensure that the next president to make appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States of America is President Donald Trump. So I got a couple of asks for you, and then I'm going to get out of your hair after we say hello to a few. 3 things. Number one, right out of the gate. Vote. And more importantly, vote early. I mean, early voting's underway here in Iowa. Okay? I mean, more than a few of you got these stickers on. Go cast that vote. Go get you a sticker. District Court Clerk Office, 701 Central Avenue, right here in Fort Dodge. I checked. Open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. It's only 7 miles away from right here. Men and women of Fort Dodge, leave here today and go vote. Cast a vote to make America great again, and bring a friend. Bring a family member. And just get it done. Just go get it done and tell your neighbors and friends to get it done, because time's a-wasting. We got more work to do in the next 12 days. The second thing I want you to do is go tell somebody. Okay? First item, go vote with a friend. Second item, go tell somebody. I mean, it really is amazing. Despite all, I saw a study the other day that of the Network Evening News, Media Research Center published that in the 12 weeks after the national conventions, Donald Trump had gotten a majority of the coverage on the evening network news, and only 91% of it had been negative. That's right. It's true. Go look it up. But the amazing thing is that this movement is gaining momentum every single day because the American people are talking to each other, and the American people have decided to make America great again. So you got to go tell somebody. You got to go tell them what this election is about. Okay? I mean, it's change versus the status quo. I mean, Hillary Clinton's whole campaign could be summed up in saying, if you like your status quo, you can keep it. And they'll keep that one. They'll keep that promise. But it's also a little more profound than that. When I think of this election, I think of what Ronald Reagan said back in 1964. He said, this election is not so much a choice between left and right or Republican or Democrat. He said back then what's true today. He said, this election is a choice between up or down. And think about it. Whether we're going to continue to go down the hill to a weaker America on the world stage, apologizing to our enemies, abandoning our friends, hollowing out the American military, whether we're going to continue to have a weakened and stifled American economy with more taxes, more regulation, more Obamacare, more bad trade deals, whether we're going to continue to walk farther and farther away from our highest constitutional principles, or whether we are in this moment in the life of this nation going to stop, plant our feet, turn around, and march back up the hill to a stronger America in the world, a more prosperous America at home, and an America that stands proudly on our highest constitutional ideals. It's up or down. It's up or down, men and women. And tell him you ran into Mike out on campus and he told you that. For real. It's just that clear of a choice. And I particularly would say to you, as you go tell somebody, it's remarkable. Donald Trump has reached out to, he's won over independents across this country that are tired of gridlock in our nation's capital and tired of the pay-to-play politics that's synonymous with the Clintons' career. He's won over many Democrats around this country who are tired of liberal policies flowing out of our nation's capital, tired of being told out of our nation's capital and the political elite, and tired of trade deals that seem to just ship jobs overseas every day of the week. But now I would say to all of you, now's the time to reach out, particularly here in Iowa, to all of our Republican and conservative friends, and to say with one voice, it's time to come home. Okay? I mean, really and truly. It's time to say to our fellow Republican voters, it's time to come home and elect the Trump-Pence team. It's time to come home to re-elect Republican majorities in the House and Senate, re-elect Senator Chuck Grassley, re-elect Congressman Steve King, all the strong conservative Republicans that we will need to move our agenda forward. And it's time to come home to make sure that Hillary Clinton is never elected president of the United States of America. It's time to come home. Okay? Go tell them. And when you do, one last thing. I encourage you, if you're taking notes, vote early. All right? 6 miles away. Go tell somebody, especially some of our Republican friends. And lastly, have faith. Have a spring in your step. Be confident. All right? I told a radio show host the other day, they said, how's it going out there? And I said, man, I'm meeting myself coming and going, but I seem to be in a good mood. And it's because of the view I have right now. It's because as I go around this country, I've never seen anything like it. I've never had the privilege of being some small part of a moment where the American people are going to grab Washington, D.C. by the lapels and say, we want government as good as our people again. So be confident and go tell that story. And tell them we can do it. This country belongs, this national government belongs to the American people. And the American people are going to make America great again. So be confident. And lastly, maybe have that other kind of faith exercised in the 12 days that remain. You know, if you do like Karen and I do from time to time, if you bow the head, if you bend the knee, it's a good time to do it in the next 12 days. And you know, and I'm not talking so much, I'm here to make the case for our team. All right? From the House, Senate, to the White House, to turn this country around. But on this one, I just encourage you just to pray for our country. America matters far beyond our shores. We are the last best hope of earth. We inspire people all over the world by our freedom and our industry and our goodness and our generosity. So if you're of a mind to pray, I kind of think of what Abraham Lincoln said in his time when he was asked if he thought that God was on his side. And he said, well, you know, I rather concern myself with whether we're on God's side than that God is on our side. So just pray for America. Pray for this country, and when you do, pray with confidence, because I truly believe what's been true for thousands of years is still true today. Those ancient words, that if his people, who are called by his name, will humble themselves and pray, he'll do like he's always done throughout much more challenging times in the life of this great nation. He'll hear from heaven, and he'll heal this land. This one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So Iowa, we have work to do. You have a little less than 12 days left. So let's get on with it. Let's leave here today. Take ownership of your destiny here in Iowa. And I'll make you a promise. That man is ready. This team is ready. This movement is ready. If you go out and make sure that Iowa is ready, we will make Donald Trump the 45th president of the United States of America, and we will make America great again. Let's get to work, everybody. Let's go get it done and bring it home.